Christmas this year, I received something really special from my wife, a typewriter. This one. It's a Hermes 3000, which was made in 1963, so it's actually a little over 60 years old. Now, usually I make videos about locks and puzzles, and this isn't a lock and it isn't a puzzle, but I had a feeling that the people who enjoy my regular videos might also like to see this. The main reason I wanted to show you this was really just to marvel a bit at the engineering of this thing. We're so used to gadgets and tools today that are primarily electronic, where features are code hardwired into silicon chips. On this machine, features are physical, mechanical engineering. So here's a really nice example. This little notch here. It's just a place where the metal on this piece of the carriage has been cut away. Why? Well, it's so that you can see when you're approaching the end of the page. So as I wind up my paper, as we get close to the end of the page, we can see the bottom here. So this is a feature of this typewriter that is literally just a hole in the machine. Now here's another one. This typewriter has margins, just like you're used to with modern word processors. You can see the way the margins are as they're indicated by this red ribbon on the left side and on the right hand side. And that is literally a piece of ribbon that is running inside this mechanism here. And as we set the margins, the ribbon moves to the appropriate place. So here I've set the margins so that we have this very, very narrow typing space. You probably noticed that each of these non-letter keys has two symbols on it. And of course we want to be able to type uppercase and lowercase versions of each letter. And this is made possible by the shift key. And in fact there are two shift keys, one on each side, just like on a modern computer keyboard. What the shift key does is it lowers the basket. And the basket is this collection of arms here. So that when an arm strikes the ribbon, normally it's going to strike with the lower part, where the lowercase letter is, and if I have shift, you can see that it's the upper part of the arm that's striking the ribbon. So we get two options for each key. And this is so clever. And not only do we have shift keys, we even have a shift lock key, which locks the shift in place so that we can type in capitals for if you're really angry. When you type a letter, so let's say the H, the corresponding arm for that letter lifts up, the ribbon also lifts up, the arm hits the ribbon and types the letter onto the page, and then as you let go, the ribbon drops back down so you can see the letter you've just typed. Now if I actually do that for real, you'll see that as I let go, the carriage also just moves one character to the left so that we can type the next letter. And the space bar does the same thing, except it doesn't print any letters, it just moves the carriage along one space. Oh, and if we move this lever here, we can set how high the ribbon lifts up. So this is it lifting up to produce a black letter, but if I put this down to the red setting, the ribbon lifts up higher so that we get the red part of the ribbon, and we type in red letters. When you get close to the end of a line, a bell rings to warn you. And if you go too far, it literally stops you from typing. Unless we push this button, which releases the carriage. And then you can type to your heart's content. And when you've completed your line, we're going to use this lever here. Watch what it does. As I push it to the right, it moves us on one line. And then I keep pushing it, and that moves the carriage all the way across. Now, a couple of things to say about that. First of all, we have this little lever here, which allows us to choose between single spacing, spacing and a half, and double spacing. You might remember, if you're as old as I am and into computers, the oddity of the fact that the ASCII character table has a character for carriage return and a character for line feed. Well, this is where that came from. When I push the lever across, it does a line feed, so it moves up one line, and then as I keep pushing, it returns the carriage, so that's a carriage return. It's actually kind of amazing how much of typewriter design and function has carried forward into modern computers. The keys aren't laid out in a regular grid. So for example, we can see that the W is below the gap in between the 2 and the 3, but the S is just slightly to the right of the W, and the X is a little bit further to the right of the S. Have a look at your computer keyboard and you'll probably see the same design. Now you may have also noticed that there's something missing, particularly if you look at this top line. There's no 1 and there's no 0. What? Well, this is a nice example of engineering efficiency. Why have a dedicated key to type the number 1 when the lowercase l looks so similar? And you can probably guess how you type a 0. It does feel strange, having been used to keyboards which do have both these numbers on, to have to use a shift, for example, to type a 0. Quite a lot of typewriters actually didn't have an exclamation mark, but this one does. On those other typewriters, you had to type a full stop, then a backspace, which just moves the carriage back one space, and then type an apostrophe, which is up here on Shift 8. So actually, to type a single exclamation mark, you had to do 4 presses. One thing this typewriter, like actually many other typewriters, had that modern keyboards don't have is these special fraction symbols. I guess it was more common than you'd think that someone would need to type 5/8. Does seem a bit weird to me, honestly, that there's no key for 1, but there is a key which has 1/8 and 3/8 on it. The final feature, and this one honestly feels a little bit like magic to me, is the tab key. So it has a default behavior, pretty similar to what you're used to in a word processor. It jumps to a fixed set of tab stops along the line. This is great for, tabulating data in a table or something like that. But you can also set tabs wherever you want. So let's say I want there to be a tab here. I push plus, and now there's a tab there. So when I go back, if I hit tab, it jumps to that spot where I hit the plus key. You can also use the minus key to delete a single tab, and this one to delete all tabs and reset them back to default. There's loads of other nice features that typewriters like this one had, like this knob which sets how hard the keys strike the page, and behind the paper we have these paper supports to keep your paper nice and upright, and the whole thing came in this rather lovely case. And it came with a very detailed instruction manual. I actually learned to type on a typewriter in the 1980s, but it feels dramatically different typing on this than it does typing on a computer keyboard, unsurprisingly. So why did I want to get a typewriter? Well, partly it's just a lovely object, an amazing piece of the history of engineering. The history of our society, but also I like to write. I write mostly short stories, and I find that if I write with pen and paper, my hand starts to hurt and get tired very quickly, so I thought I'd give a typewriter a try. So far I'm really loving it. So there we are, that's the Hermes 3000 typewriter from 1963. It still works great, and I suspect there aren't very many gadgets that you can buy today that will still work fine in 60 years time. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video. Bye.